Easy. See how easy that was, you guys? Okay, so we wanted to talk quickly about something that you can do if you have brass or if you have silver, if you have basically anything that has some oxidation. Okay, you want to ask yourself what causes oxidation and how can I reverse that or change the properties or the colors of the thing that's oxidized. So all we're going to do today is change the pH of tap water, which is normally about 7.0, maybe a little on the acidic side, 6.8, depending on who's running the friggin' water plant. And all you're gonna do is what we're about to show you, and all you need is some baking soda, maybe a little tub of water, and you're gonna get, maybe you can get a toothbrush. I'm gonna probably use a toothbrush, but I use a superfine steel wool. And normally you would never ever use steel wool if you're not like trying to like grind metal down or completely off, unless it is solid brass and you don't give a rat's a-hole about the design of what it is that you're about to fuck up. So anyway, I wouldn't recommend using a Brillo pad, but I'm about to use a Brillo pad. So I want to show you that, but first let's go see if we can get some gloves, because honest to God, guys, I've been working all week with brass fittings and picking up stuff, and I'm sick of my hands feeling like, total dog shit. You know how brass feels if it's like oxidized? Well, that's kind of what we're going after here, okay? See, oxidation isn't really 100% the breaking down of the brass plating or the breaking down of the alloy. No, it's actually something else. If you were to take a piece of steel that is brand new and you were to cover it in, let's say, like chlorine, leave it out in the sun for a week, wrap it in a plastic bag, take it out. When you take it out, that thing's gonna look 5,000 fucking years old. And that is how we make things look rusty without actually being rusty. See, what happens is there's a thing that takes place on the surface. You can't see it, but it's called electrolysis. And what it is really cool, because it's almost like it takes particles from the air, like magnetic pieces of iron that are circulating through the air. I'm partially right. And instead of it destroying the metal that's underneath, it just attaches itself on top of it, similar to that of a barnacle on the bottom of a boat. So what happens when you connect an electrical electrode to a piece of steel that has rust on it? The oxidation changes polarity. So what is the polarity of whatever it is that we're doing? So let's just say we have a charge, a 9-volt battery charge, and it's connected to a piece of steel that's down into whatever your solution is, and you're causing it to oxidize. Then we reverse the polarity. What happens then, guys? Once you reverse the polarity, doesn't matter what material you're using, once it goes from positive to negative, now you're reversing the process of what you just did. So now, unlike oxidation sticking to steel like a magnet, it does the opposite and it repels it. So the same is true with other chemicals, that things like potassium, which by the way, potassium and water are always in like a perpetual fist fight. I always say that every time that we would work with any kind of potassium, that potassium and water are going to get into a bar fight. And there is no way inside that space, which would be the bar, that you could possibly have potassium and water in the same place at the same time, because they would have a bar fight so bad that what would end up happening is this, like, potassium would have its friend like magnesium come along, and then water, of course, it's got hydrogen, it's got two parts, it's got two boys behind them in hydrogen. So hydrogen is packing heat, and water knows that. So Water hates potassium, so they can never be in the same bar together. So like I said, every single time that we talk about two particular chemicals, we want to refer to them in not chemistry, but in reaction to another chemical reaction. Now, I know you guys understand that what some of us are trying to portray in chemistry isn't necessarily, it's trying to figure something out. That's the way I look at chemistry, like the hard way. When I say I want to learn how to put out forest fires or tire fires, I would have to know what the components of the tire fire is, which in this case would be something like sulfur, carbon monoxide, all the bad stuff in a tire that is toxic, and then find a way in which to capture said fire from a tire, asphyxiate it, then instead of waiting for the things to cool down, I set probably the biggest like turbo fan, prop fan on its head and shoot all of the effluent up into the sky. So thus eliminating, and by the way, the effluent has a way of eliminating or neutralizing the chemicals of burning tires by eliminating one part of the fire triangle. And which fire part doesn't matter. You can pick the temperature. So you follow what I'm saying. Now, but chemically, let's talk about Tesla batteries. Tesla batteries, and if you guys have not experienced a Tesla being on fire yet, they're hotter than motherfucking hell. We had a pizza oven, okay? A pizza oven that had a gas leak. And the gas was on and the oven was on, and we had to go in there and like reach behind, because the valve, if you could see like a refrigerator, the valve was behind this pizza oven. All right, the pizza oven maxed out at 600 degrees Celsius. So you could basically have a forge in this fucking thing. And so when I say your EPP really only goes up to about 400 degrees, you feel the heat. And you're turning a valve that's behind a friggin' wall, that's in between a wall and a big old pizza oven that's 600 degrees. And like I said, it's all Celsius, not 600 degrees Fahrenheit, Celsius. And if you manage, after you get your hand in and out of there, now what I'm saying is you're taking yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly, Mr. Longstroke. You're putting your hand in there as quick as you can, and you're turning it to the, which way, guys? Which way do you turn gas off when it's a cylinder? Do you turn it to the left, or do you turn it to the right? Which one is it? When you're turning off a valve for gas, do you turn it to the left, or do you turn it to the right? Which one is it? What about the valve itself? What about the valve that screws into the tank itself? Is that right-handed threaded, or is that left-handed threaded? Because listen, when a time comes for you to have to literally do this for your own house because there's a fire, you will thank me for saying this to you and not scaring you half to death. And a lot of times, a lot of people, they won't even call the fire department if there is a gas leak. They're like, no, fuck that, I ain't calling anybody. Well, you may have a gas leak in like your cylinder. And what the firefighters have is like there's a two female, like a Siamese headed female hose that will it'll connect onto a cylinder like this. You turn that cylinder over on its head, and then the other one, by gravity, because this is a very heavy chemical, LP gas, you connect that to your extra cylinder, and all of the gas that was escaping out of this one is now passing downhill into the tube going into the other cylinder. So it's evident to me that if I just showed you that once, you would say, you know what, the fucking professor showed me this when I was like 19 years old, and there is a way to do it. I don't remember how he did it, but he had like a hose, and he had like one connected to that one, and he had another one connected to that one, and he had this one up higher than that one, and he drained all of the leaking gas out of this leaky cylinder, and he literally drained all the gas and put it into a new gas tank, shut it off, and took the old gas tank back to the fire station and chained and locked it out. Because that's what you do when you have a gas leak, is you lock it out, tag it out, and you put it in a place that there are no sparks and there's no flames around. So you will allow the LP gas to literally escape very, very slowly until there is no LP gas left. So it evaporates. So then all you have is a dead cylinder that has nothing in it. Now, another thing you remember, never, ever, ever cut open a propane cylinder, natural gas, LP, however you want to call it. I know you guys have all these great ideas about taking a gas tank and turning it into a barbecue grill. Well, you can do that under one condition. You have to promise, pinky swear that you'll do this. Because if you do not, I'm afraid that you will turn that great idea of yours into a one-way ticket to go meet Jesus. So you want to make sure you take these steps. Don't recommend you ever cut open a gas tank. But if you do, you want to do this. You want to do the following. You want to take out the valve out of the tank body. On the bottom, there may or may not be safety plugs. Okay, if there are safety plugs, those are pressurized plugs that explode basically if the container becomes overpressured, or if there's a attendant explosion, and it comes mostly in chlorine cylinders. So my recommendation is not to cut them open at all. Instead, go and save your money and buy something that's already prefabricated, because the risk to reward is so small. And any of you guys who have ever seen an LP gas explosion know that these things turn into fucking rockets. And there may be days where the cylinder is wide open and you could still smell that horrible stink smell of LP gas. It smells like dead flies and rats' assholes. Okay, that is going to be sitting in the sun. The problem is that you don't know that LP gas is heavy. So LP gas, like if I had a transparent tube in my hand right now, and I put LP gas at the top and let it loose, and then I had a flame on here, down here, what would happen is the LP gas would travel downhill because it's heavier than air. Another gas that's heavier than air is Freon. And something that you should never ever do is go camping with your family and fill up an air mattress using Freon. Now you guys have heard of Freon. You know what Freon is. And you guys both, you all know, both of you all know that Freon is heavier than air. And back in the 80s, I heard this story about this family that went camping. And it was a bike racing, BMX kind of a tournament thing. And I was like big into BMX back then. And so what ended up happening was that night, the gas that was inside the family's air mattress popped the cork. And the cork popped open. It basically filled the tent up with the gas to the point where it was above the father's head, sleeping like this, if you would, horizontally, and essentially drowned in their own lungs. And that is why I say, please do not use Freon, as convenient as that is, to fill up an air mattress to let your children sleep on in a enclosed tent with, let's say it's a cold weather tent. Yeah. You follow me, guys? This thing's like a sauna in there, and you're basically inhaling, and you're sleeping now. So now you're inhaling Freon, which is heavier than air, and it will make you drown. The other, and the worst of all, has to be by far carbon monoxide poisoning. And another time that I was a BMX kid that would go to the BMX, supercrosses and things like that, and I would compete against the best BMX racers in all of the state. Now, again, campers and wealthy families can't afford to take their BMX racing child to the BMX races as a form of recreation in, say, an RV. And see, these RV people, especially the ones with money, they don't maintain their RVs. And if they have a trailer, even less. So they go to these BMX Grand Nationals and they use their little beautiful miniature stove, and then they turn the gas on and they have a heater. So everybody's good and toasty at night, and then to wake up the next morning or not to wake up because they have been poisoned by carbon monoxide and you have no idea. So ventilation is like a huge part of all that. And I mentioned those three things because every single time there's been some kind of a confined space death, involving a death, there has always been a chemical involved. There's always been a person who is unaware or ignorant to those things. And so my last story is this. When my daughter was born, her mom took her back to the U.S. She was born in Germany, and took her to the U.S. and lost her passport. Not the baby's passport, her passport. And so instead of getting a new passport and making it steps and effort to do that, she just took the baby and never came back, and then filed for divorce 3 months later. And then I come to find out that she had another boyfriend while I was, stationed at Kuwait during the war. And so when I came back, she was making the excuses and finding her exit strategy to get the fuck out. So I'm glad about that. I feel bad for my daughter because she does not know anything about me and doesn't really want to know anything about me. And now I'm just like frustrated with her. I'm like, just do like Mr. Palmer says. Mr. Palmer says, just wash your hands and walk the fuck away, because you're not going to force anybody to love you if you've been alienated. And unfortunately, that's sad, but that is the truth. So if you feel like you're doing something wrong, then you probably are. And if you're not doing something wrong, then you need to get around some friends. If you're not doing anything wrong and you got your ducks in order, you're the kind of guy that needs to go to the post office with your $183 and get a passport, and then get on, what would be a good site to tell them about for cheap, because they're always on cheap tickets and stuff, but Google Flights will point you in the right direction for us cheap flights. Cam Scanner used to be the shit, I think, and now it is shit. So I don't use Cam Scanner. Sky Scanner, guys. Sky Scanner. Cam Scanner is awesome. I love Cam Scanner for scanning PDF documents so that they come out legible. Thank you very much, Cam Scanner, for being today's sponsor of absolutely nothing. And also, once you figure this all out, you understand that all these friends of yours that have these crazy, I gotta tell you, I had a VHS video that was about 2.5 hours long of every conspiracy prior to the internet, and it was on a VHS tape. The very first part of this video was a thing that you thought might have been on Faces of Death, but it wasn't Faces of Death. It was a literal fun hobby group of people that were gun enthusiasts called Machine Gun Magic. And they had a drone that was flying around that had LEDs on it at the time in the 90s. Glow in the dark stuff, you know what I'm saying? Glow in the dark lights. And they're shooting at them with these automatic weapons. 30 calibers, 50 calibers. A guy that had quad 50s. Really? Where do you get these, Texas? That's where you get them, in Texas. So my first time experiencing that, it went on into things like Rush Limbaugh and the stuff that he wrote in the book. It was called See, I Told You So. And he explained that at one point we will experience the Boy Scouts being threatened to human beings. And that if Boy Scouts are sort of a pseudo-military, then that would make the Eagle Scouts fucking the special forces. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take Rush's words, because He's actually talking about something that one day I will eventually have a large army of firefighters. And I'm in my 20s. I don't think about stuff like that when I'm in my 20s because here I am, this little jitterbug with sweet tooth, you know what I mean, still wet behind the ears, installing fire sprinklers for the Air Force that have the foam systems on the C-130s and the C-5s and all those big planes. And I'm the one fixing them and maintaining them and, you know, stuff like that. So I'm learning the basics of firefighting in my first year or so of military school. Military college. It's called tech school. And what you could get in a tech school is the same as you would get in a trade school in 4 years. So if you're really like someone like me that needed to live and breathe and move in school, to have no excuses, oh, my girlfriend, she doesn't want me to go to class tonight, you know what I mean? None of that for you Sanchos. None of that, because the chile is gonna work. We're gonna work that chile in the college, Sanchos. Okay? All my Sanchos, man, telling you, work that college. Work the college, you guys. Because if you go to college, you will meet college ladies that may or may not be interested in your future firefighting ass. But the good news is that while you are studying, you can observe nature. You can make decisions to say, do I really want to be around these individuals for the next 30, 40 years of this awesome existence? Or I just put the brakes on, put the pause button on, ignore them for a while, and then figure out which one of them would be good enough for me. That's how I look at things now. See, the thing about billionaires is they hang around with other billionaires. And I hung around with billionaires before I ever became anything that looked like a millionaire. Notice I said looked like. And when I heard these two old men talking, one of them was the CEO of Budweiser at the time, chairman of the board, and I don't remember what the other guy did. And this young, I'm going to say street hustler, was in the Colony Hotel at the bar. I don't know if it was a Tuesday or a Thursday night. Usually they have like music and stuff and appetizers. And this guy was just trash drunk. And he comes up to us and he says, oh, Brian, oh yeah, must be nice, because, oh, but that's easy for you to say because you're rich. And then Jimmy, which by the way, his name is Jimmy, he's a really presentable, really approachable guy. And he was with Budweiser for Anheuser-Busch for who the hell knows how many years, chairman of the board. I was there probably 12, 15 years ago. And went to their house in Delaware where they had like guitar players but that's not all. Tomorrow we're going to go marlin fishing. We're going to do a marlin competition. What do you think about that, Cappy? And I say, hey, look, I'm down for whatever. I'm not in a hurry. We go to the White Marlin World Championship and go way the fuck out in the ocean, like to the point where you can't even see land anymore. And he has a crew in his boat that are basically all boat captains and straight just gangsters when it comes to fishing. Like the pro marlin fishermen in the world are on this guy's mega yacht, which by the way, he asked me to go up in the tower, the tuna tower, and yell at the beach. I don't know, I guess that's a thing there, but I did it. So that year we won the White Marlin World Championship. If you want to look it up, you can look up Delaware White Marlin World Championship. And then you'll see my picture in that photo winning the White Marlin World Championship. I didn't win it. the boat captain won it. I just happened to be on that specific boat. So the owners were on that boat when they were winning the world championship, and the other owners were also on the beach. That is why I was up on the tuna tower during the competition, because we weren't even in the competition yet until we got like 6 to fucking 8 kilometers out. But they wanted me to go up in the tuna tower and yell some horrible shit to the other owners, because you can't take everybody on the boat to go win, like I said, win the White Marlin World Championship. Now, the people that are on that boat with me, one is a famous singer from England that plays guitar, and he played in several bands that you would know. And the other one was the chairman of Budweiser. You would not know him unless you looked him up, which is great. The third guy, his name was Bryce, and Bryce's family owns all of the real estate in Delaware, in what is that place called? So Delaware Beach, Rehoboth Beach. So they own all of the real estate in Rehoboth Beach. And that's also where I think Biden's from too, and his kids or whatever. Or Scranton, I don't know. But I went there, and now just so you guys know, the people that I was with, they're all billionaires. They're not millionaires. They're all billionaires. And the first thing we did was go to a Cuban restaurant. A Cuban restaurant that had Cuban people from Cuba working there. This is a lovely depth conversation that if you know South Florida, if you know anything about South Florida, you know that there are a lot of Cubans. You and I both know the Cuban people own South Florida. And you know that the Cubans have been a specialty for the Democrats for a long, long time. And these people were friends with everybody in the Democratic Party, even though they were just a bunch of, you know, if you'd met them, you'd think they were a couple of lowlifes from Queens that just happened to be Cuban. But no, those were people who are actually from Cuba that left Cuba in 1994 during a very short stint in prison. What he was doing was Castro opened all of the prison gates and let all the prisoners out. I don't know if that was 94 or 97. Okay, I don't remember, but do remember this. We were drift boat fishing in the Keys with my family and her family in the Keys. This was right after the first Gulf War, and that is why I was there, because I was on leave after the first Gulf War. And we came back, said we were going to go to the Keys, and while we were in the Keys, we were out there, you know, feeding these tarpon. And the tarpon are amazing because they're just like these fish. They're like this big, and the feed fish, and you put them in the water and they go dong, and they explode. So yeah, see, exactly. So to be around, you know, people like that, it's okay if you worship people. But I met Ozzy Osbourne in an AA meeting, holding his hand, doing the Serenity Prayer. Okay, and it just happened to be my 5th anniversary. So guess who has a greeting card with Ozzy Osbourne's friggin' signature in it, saying, "Hey, Mr. Whoever you are, happy 5-year anniversary, Ozzy." So not only have I been to AA meetings with Ozzy, I have been to AA meetings with Eric Clapton. I have been to AA meetings with a lot of people that aren't open about them going to AA. Eric Clapton has had close to 40 years sobriety now, so he doesn't give a shit. When he comes up to you, he goes, "Hello, I'm Eric from London." He doesn't say, "I'm Eric Clapton." I knew who the fuck he was. Who I didn't know was the dude that was with him that had the black hair. Okay, you remember, like I said, Eric Clapton always had kind of an entourage with him up until the point where, after his kid died or something like that, and then it was like off. There were all these hidden messages in his songs and so on. So I got to meet Eric Clapton and shake hands with Eric Clapton. And once again, another one of my friends had his 1-year anniversary. And during the 1-year anniversary, Eric Clapton signed his anniversary card. And it said, "Happy anniversary, Eric from London." And I was like, bloody hell. So we had our fair share of being around just sort of famous people. Then we went to Miami. Now, I don't like Miami. The traffic is terrible. The people have horrible attitudes. And my old boss used to say, Miami is only good for one thing: hookers, hustlers, and starfuckers. Hookers, hustlers, and starfuckers. That's what Miami produces. Hookers, hustlers, and starfuckers. He used to talk just like that. So I said, well, I'm not going to go there then, because I'm going to get out of the military. I got to go to like the VA hospital for some shit. And they want to check me out, make sure I'm, make sure all my screws are screwed in. So when I get back to the States, they're like, your screws are not screwed in, so we're going to change your re-enlistment status to being fucked. So you can't go back in the military even if we have a fucking war. And I'm like, well, that ain't cool. Because, if you guys fuck me up and you turn me loose and you don't give me a pension because you say that I'm not bad enough, then if I get it and I say the wrong thing politically, I can lose that pension? That ain't fair. I do believe the last time I checked the Constitution, it was President Abraham Lincoln that guaranteed veterans will always get their pensions. And that includes World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam, all the way up to fuck you, whatever the hell we're in now. And they will be on your side. I would assume that the VA is always on the veteran side. So when I was homeless, penniless, suicidal, and homicidal, you bet your ass the VA wanted to see me. And they pumped me full of fucking pills and said, take your ass on home. Well, home was that 50-yard walk behind the VA in the fucking woods. Because after your family rejects you and you're unemployable, you have nowhere to bathe. You have nowhere to change clothes. So all these creatures comforts that all of us Americans enjoy, like cold and warm water when you feel like it, being able to go to the tap and drink a glass of tap water and not die. So assume the worst, guys, I've seen. And the very idea that veterans, people in the trades are being made fun of, people now going back to church, and they're not going back to the normal church that racks up money for greedy people. They're doing church services on podcasts now. And I decided, hell, you know what? If we're going to do that, we're not going to be breaking God's word and saying, do not forsake the assembling of thyself together. Because if you get together online with your friends and you're just talking about God and like, hey, this is what, God's doing for me. And I appreciate this because it happened for real. And then you meet somebody else like, dude, that whole thing happened to me too. And so you're not forsaking yourselves together. And there is no obligation for you to go to a physical building to worship the Most High God. He is with me right now. Like talking to you guys over the internet on YouTube. That the presence of the Most High God, not some half-ass God or a baby God, the Most High, the Lord Jesus himself is with me all the time. Like all the time. I used to think it was an angel or two. When I think about this, the way that God communicates with us is through circumstances and through people. And sometimes it sounds like criticism, but don't take it personally. Once you realize God's talking to you, you're going to be like, wait a minute, I'm so sorry. You mean you have been with me all this time? You mean you could see everything I do and hear every conversation? He's like, yeah. Oh man, I feel so stupid. No, don't feel stupid. You're a human being and you have human thoughts and you have hormones like everybody else. So just think of me as an observer, just a monitor, if you will. You get in some kind of trouble, all you gotta do is like, oh Jesus, hey, look out. You see what I'm saying? That prevents you from getting shot. That prevents you from getting your ass kicked because he works in the 50 moves ahead kind of, and it's 50 moves ahead business, meaning that you cannot anticipate the danger that is coming. So therefore, you cannot mentally prepare physically if it's a very short distance. It's like, for example, the lockers here in the fire station or in the fire academy, and then the lockers for the children are two different places because adults actually have to run to go get in the fire truck. Kids, they can run, they have to put all their equipment on first. Have you ever seen a 6-year-old kid put on a full EPP? Yeah, they're very heavy. So I just wanted to say that, man. This has been so great for you guys to tune in. I hope I can get more into this. And I'm going to finish up with this job, and then we're going to start doing those, candy paint yellow helmets. And we're going to resin them up with some gold glitter paint and whatnot. So anyway, my name is the Professor. I appreciate you timing in, and I'm out.